Hello, welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. I'm Margarita, and every 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays, every Monday, I have my Rise Up show to really assist the new leaders of light to really show up in the world, be visible, seen, heard, make a difference, make their impact, and fulfill their Starseed mission. And so if we haven't met yet, my name's Margarita, and I help new Earth leaders activate light and empowerment on the planet and build their epic businesses through power activation work and mentorship. So every week I cover a different topic that will help you really transcend any challenges you may be experiencing as a light worker, as a starseed, and really transcend those so that you can really be in service, really have those tools, and really open into that embodiment that you require so that you can really make a difference in the world. Because that's really how it begins, right? It's not by willing it to happen, it's by actually cultivating a certain level of frequency and holding that frequency. So I'm so excited to see everyone here. Hi, Zachary. Hi, Sandra. Shano, hey Will, good to see folks here. Dr. Christina as well. So hello. And so today's topic is how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power. Hi, Benjamin. Benjamin is joining us on Facebook. So this is the topic today because I know I talk about being visible as a light worker, as a starseed, like ad nauseum, if you've been following me long enough, but it's for a good reason because of course not all starseeds are meant to be like on the forefront, right? But if you're a leader of the new earth, you are. And so I am going to share with you, I'm going to cover why starseeds aren't fully in their starseed power unless they're visible in the world, what being visible looks like, and how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power. And so some of them you may be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Some of them may be like, oh, I didn't think about that before, right? So I want to share with you this perspective that may shift your perspective into this expansion for yourself. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? Like I can show up, I can help facilitate things, I can provide power activation work and mentorship, but it all begins from within yourself. And it all happens because you put it in the game, right? You are putting the skin in the game, you are playing a big game, and you're stepping up into your own path. And so that takes an inner decision. And then after that, then you get to receive any facilitations, help, assistance, support, and all that, juiciness. Tenzin is sharing, finally able to catch you live. Yes, glad you're here. Glad you're here. And so today's episode is really for those starseeds who want to be visible. These are for the starseeds who are committed to their expansion, their mission to being visible. And, as I've mentioned, I do mentor starseeds to cultivate their visibility, have a profound impact in the world, and, know how to walk through the challenges of being a starseed on mission. So that's such an important topic for me, this whole visibility piece. And it's not just a me thing, because obviously a lot of, my content is about authentic expression, being visible, being connected to who you are, yada, yada. And it really starts from within, like I've mentioned before. And here is why starseeds aren't fully in their starseed power unless they're being visible in the world. And so, first of all, if you're only focusing on those around you, like who are local to you, for instance, like in your local community, it will limit your level of reach. It will limit your impact. It will limit your opportunities because it will be limited to whatever is physically around you. So if you are only, if you're kind of like, yeah, I'm in the full impact of my power as a starseed, just by serving the 3 people around me, it's like there's kind of like a little dissonance there, right? You get to really make your impact on a global level, on a universal level even, right? Like when you're really at that frequency, you're really like beaming that out into the universe, right? So everyone in the world can literally feel you, even if they're not like saying, I can feel Will's frequency from here in Australia, right? Like, people may not be thinking that in a cognizant, aware way, but they will. They will feel you when you are at that frequency and you're holding that frequency. So that is something that I do. That's something I show my clients how to do for themselves and for their work, because your work is super important. Your work is super potent. It is super powerful. It is super transformative. And the world deserves to experience your deliciousness, right? Your amazing frequency. So, yeah, you are meant to be like at a higher level of reach, and that means global, it even means universal. And so that's just one point, right? Another reason why starseeds aren't fully in their starseed power unless they're visible in the world is because unless you're visible, you won't be connected to your throat chakra power, and you won't really fully activate it until you do, because you can do tons of things. You can do tons of work. I knew before I got really, visible in a bigger way, like my throat chakra, I felt like I was pretty good there. Like I felt like I was doing stuff already, and I probably was, right? But it wasn't until I really became more visible and I started, really putting myself out there, doing all the uncomfortable things like talking about myself, talking about my work, being on video, right? Like, I mean, so many of you like have heard my story by now of like how I akin my first Facebook Live, I think it was 5 years ago now, when Facebook Live was a thing and it wasn't even on Instagram yet. Like there was no lives on Instagram yet, I think. Um, and I was coming out of the Starseed closet talking about my work, my greater work, my relationship with Gaia, really claiming ownership of the potency of my work, and all of that. Like, even if you just take one little snippet of each of that, that would have already been super challenging to me. And for me to then just come out of the Starseed closet and be like, oh, look at this, look at all this that I've been not sharing with you, right? And then I share it. It was like, wow, that was like sticking like a hot fork in my eye. That's like something I would have rather have done rather than being visible. And, if you've been following my work long enough, you've heard this story already. Because, people think that I might come out of the womb feeling super comfortable making videos and talking and whatever. And I did not. I was that person who was a good, I was happy to be like a wallflower. I was happy to just merge with the wallpaper and not have anyone look at me and, notice me and whatever. And then, after a certain point, I just started realizing that even though I'm trying to like blend in with the background, I couldn't blend in. Like no matter where I went, no matter what I did, no matter how I silenced myself, I was just always sticking out. And maybe that's something you're noticing for yourself, right? And for whatever reason, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason why you are noticeable. There is a reason why people see you and they see something about you that's like very sparkly and bright or something impactful, right? And you get to develop that and you get to take ownership of that, because when you do, then you can then manage it, you can work with it, and then you can hone it and then share it, right? And so that's the thing, is that when it comes to your throat chakra, going, circling back to my point, is that I thought I was already in my throat chakra power. I mean, I wasn't on video, I wasn't doing all that visibility stuff, but I mean, I felt I was in my throat chakra power. It was only when I started actually doing videos and sharing content, putting myself out there and doing things that I was uncomfortable with, then I really realized, wow, I am unleashing a different level of throat chakra power now. And so it's a very tangible difference. So your throat chakra will not be fully activated until you're really visible in the world in a bigger way. And then the last point I wanted to make about why starseeds aren't fully in their starseed power unless they're visible in the world is, as a starseed, you have a big purpose and a big energy. I don't know why you're trying to be all like suppressing your big energy and trying to like make it cute and in a little tiny little box with a bow on it. It's like, no, it cannot be contained. Your energy and your frequency and your purpose, it is huge, and allow it to be huge. It's okay. You get to embrace that big energy that you are, right? And so playing small and invisible is not only disservice to you, but to those you could be serving if you got out of your own way. So I just kind of want to bring that to your attention, because Because yeah, like a lot of starseeds are like, well, not all starseeds are meant to be visible. Well, on some level, that's true. And then on another level, it's, well, if you are here to be a leader of the new earth, yes, you are. Yes, you are meant to be visible. If you're here to lead the movement of light, yes, of course you are. Of course you're meant to be visible. And so when you are, then you'll really be in the fullness of your power, right? Because then you can reach more people, you can connect with more people. I'm noticing some folks are sharing some things here. Tenzin is sharing, getting nudged to step in my purpose, but yes, visibility is the big issue. I am one of those students back in high school, hates being in front of classroom and do presentations. Oh my God, I was that person. I feel your pain. I was that person. I would have rather, just kind of like merged with like the school desks and and the chairs. That was me. And then of course my last name, my first letter begins with A. So I'm like called first for everything. So, that was already a clear indication that, I might as well get used to it. Getting called for first, leading things, setting the tone, all of that stuff, right? So at some point, I just took ownership of it, and it's more fun. Haley says, hi, I'm done being invisible. It's time to let my Lyran flag fly. Yes, it is, Haley. Yes, it is. I'm calling you forward. Jasmine says, absolutely can't fit in if I try. Yeah. So for all of you who are trying to fit in, stop trying. You're not meant to fit in. Zachary says, trying to keep it cute and casual as a starseed just doesn't work. Yeah, we try though, right? We try to keep it cute. We try to keep it very casual. And then we come out with like, yes, and then the cosmic frequencies of the galactic beings of light are, stop trying to fit into a tiny box, okay? It's not meant for you. You are not meant for tiny little boxes. Okay. So here's what being visible looks like, because I just wanted to be clear on that. It might sound super simplistic that I'm even covering this, but I'm going to, because a lot of different people have different concepts of what being visible is, right? So what being visible looks like, showing your face on platforms such as social media, that's one, right? So showing your face, like not just showing your hands doing things, unless you're an artist, right? Then that's really powerful. Like an artist who uses your hands, like if you do illustration with your hands, or you do pottery or something, then that would be like super effective. But for those of us who are more like service-based, but even if you have a product, that's that you're like actually sharing, I mean, you're still going to need to show your face. So showing your face on social media, for instance, is part of it. And it's not just to show your face and be like, okay, I did the thing, I showed my face, right? No, it's because your face and your body and sharing that out in the world, like, I mean, you can feel someone's energy, sure, from like reading a post, from words, even from photographs. But when it's a video, it is potent. And especially if you are a high vibrational starseed, and then you show your face, then people will be like, ooh, I'm feeling their energy. I'm feeling their frequency, right? And then also you're sharing your personality. And the reason why that's important is because you get to have a personality. You're not like, let me show you 10 yoga poses and 10 easy steps and share how to be in your wellness, right? Like that might be part of your repertoire, but you get to have your flavor. Everyone's got a flavor. Even if you don't think you have a flavor, you got a flavor, and you get to share the flavor of your personality. Number two, using your actual voice on these platforms. Again, the same concept as showing your face on these platforms is because your voice, it's not just so you can, talk about yourself and listen to yourself. It's not about you. It's about them. It's about your ideal client, right? So even like as I'm showing up here on this live, I'm not making it about, does my hair look good? Do I sound okay? It's none of that, because I'm not focused on myself. I already did my work around that, and I have my little bullet points here on the side so that I can focus on you, right? And so that's what you should really be focusing on when you're sharing any videos, because then you can focus on sharing your frequency through your visuals and through your voice. And when you do carry a higher frequency as a starseed, people can feel your potency and your energy even from your voice. And then can you imagine if you were showing your face and using your voice? Oh my God, people wouldn't know what to do with themselves, right? And then of course you want to add the effect of you're actually speaking from an aligned place, right? You're not just sharing some cookie cutter thing that you think people want to hear. You're actually sharing the essence of you and your frequency and your work, and conveying that and being really real, not only with yourself, but with your people, because people will pick that up. And so, and I'll tell you one thing is that if I were to be like, I don't know, super general with my messaging, like star seeds, it's all love and light, it's all amazing, right? Like, I mean, we know that, on one level, but we also know that, we're in the middle of like a very intense prophesied time on the planet, right? And that we literally incarnated to like watch all these fireworks. That's something that I shared with those who were at the 1111 Blueprint, Starseed Blueprint Activation and Embodiment event on Friday now it was. So, this is something that when your message is also aligned, then you will, it's so powerful. It just really is so powerful. So number 3, shooting videos and creating content with your ideal client in mind is also what being visible looks like. So shooting videos for either social media, for your programs, for YouTube, for Instagram, for something else, whatever your platform is. That's also being visible. Number 4, what being visible also looks like is being consistent in your expression and how you share your content. And I know this might be like, what? Why? Well, I'll tell you why. So being consistent in your expression, if one day you are like, I don't know, like for instance, if you were to one day talk about, yes, my purpose is helping certain people heal their trauma and lead a more expensive life or something like that. And then the next day you're talking about, what you had for lunch or something like that. Or all of a sudden you started talking about culinary expertise and cooking lessons and stuff. Then people would be like, what's going on here? Is she helping to heal trauma, or is she like a cook? What is she doing? Right? And so that would be confusing. And if you are not consistent with your messaging, consistent with sharing your expertise, then it will not only be confusing, but any person who is confused by what you share is going to swipe away. The moment that anyone gets confused by your stuff, they're going to swipe away. And the reason being is not because they're mean people, right? It's just, we've got the attention of goldfish, or even like less than that. I think we actually have less the attention of goldfish, because I think goldfish attention is like 7 seconds or something. And I think humans were like 3 seconds or something. So basically our attention span is very brief. So you want to be consistent with what you're sharing. Otherwise, if you confuse them, you lose them, basically, right? And then also you want to make it with your ideal client in mind. It's not, how can I pump myself up to look so prolific? And that's what I meant when I was sharing on a previous post, because someone had a question of, well, now I'm confused. Do you talk about what you're sharing in your offers and maybe even your stories about yourself, or do you not? Right? And so what I'm talking about is, if you are more concerned about talking about how amazing you are and how prolific you are without sharing the value it has for your ideal client, then they're going to be like, okay, so great, she's a Reiki master, awesome, and now she's certified in the state of Louisiana or something, right? Like, they're going to be like, so what, right? They're going to be like, what about, how does that help me, right? So you want to kind of really share from a place of service, from a place of how can I help you, and that kind of thing. And then also what being visible looks like is being a sponge about new ways to connect with your community so that not only can you reach them, but they can find you. So that's really helpful because when you're just absorbing information of like, I'm going to try this. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try that. Okay, that people really liked, right? I'm going to double down on that. So it's just really about practicing. That's how you get good. That's how you get confident. That's how you get clear on your vision and your purpose, is that you just start. You just start talking about it. You just start, sharing about it. You start shooting your videos and, maybe have some bullet points on the side, right? So that you can stay on point if you're one of those people who likes to talk, and I like to talk. So I need my bullet points, and I know that about myself, right? So that's important. Being a sponge to connect with your community in new ways, experimenting things, trying things out. And that's also kind of segueing into the next point of being visible also looks like expanding, experimenting with, and doubling down on the techniques of connection and communication that help your community the most. So if they're more like visual learners, you might want to have more diagrams or like carousels or things that they read, or maybe have more videos, and maybe in your videos do certain things in your videos, right? It depends, but like when you really tap in to what your people really resonate with, and then sometimes you're going to share some things that they need to hear, right? And you may not always get the best engagement on those things. And that's okay, because they still need to hear them, right? Because you're showing up in service. You're not showing up for a popularity contest. And the faster you can get on board with that, about not getting consumed of like, well, what if they like me? What if they don't? Then you've already lost the game, right? If that's your goal, to be liked, then, you know, you're playing the wrong game, right? Like if you want to really be in service, it becomes less about you and how you feel and more about, I've done my work, not that you need to be perfect in yourself, right? Because you get to always be expanding. But what I'm saying is you can feel solid in yourself enough and feeling confident in your knowledge that you get to share it. And you get more confident the more you share. And then the last point of how being visible looks like is always learning and early adopting on new rollouts. So one of the things that helped me, since most of you are finding me on Instagram, is some of you might know me because of like my reels on Instagram and things like that. And the reality is that I was a little bit of an early adopter. I mean, I wasn't a super early adopter, meaning like if I jumped on it in like maybe 2020, I would have been an early adopter. But I jumped on Reels more like early 2021 when most people were still not doing them. And so because Instagram was pushing them out, I had a tremendous level of reach, lots of views, like every single reel, even with minimal effort, like got over 1,000 likes and massive engagement and all that stuff, right? And so I just rode on those coattails and just really started providing value and more value and more value. And because I was more of an early adopter to Reels, then, you get rewarded by like, your stuff will get pushed out more, right? So now that it's the third year into Reels, more people are doing Reels. And so things are a little bit more spread out in terms of viewership and readability and all that's reachability. And then also all these like certain Instagram algorithms are happening. So make sure that you're always checking out some of these new rollouts that are showing up, because if you're one of the early adopters, and you maximize it and you use it and you work it and become flexible with it, then you can actually get really highly rewarded for that early adopter behavior and reach more people faster. So let me know if this is resonating for you. Okay. I'm noticing some of the comments here. Yeah. And so here, now I'm going to go into how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power, since we've covered why starseeds aren't fully in their starseed power unless they're visible in the world, and what being visible looks like. And again, If you are not feeling the whole being visible as a light worker or starseed, that's fine. And at the same time, if you're here to be a leader of light, a leader of the new earth, then absolutely 100% you are meant to be visible in the world. So this is important. Shaila, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Good to see you here. She's saying this live is exactly what I needed to hear. I'm so glad to hear it. So, and I'm also glad to see that it's resonating for you. So, and also you want to make sure that you hang out till the end, because then I will answer some questions and I'll also have a very special announcement. And so here's how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power. So number one, you build and hone your authentic voice and expression. So, I might sound comfortable now with being on video and talking, and that came from showing up every week. Like literally since 5 years ago, I've had some live show and I've showed up every single week. And the only weeks that I haven't shown up is if I was like out of the country or it was a holiday or I was sick, right? Those are the only reasons. And, but I've been pretty consistent. And so when you are consistent with that, you actually build confidence in yourself. You start to build your voice. You start to hone your voice. You start to get familiar with your voice. You start to understand how you like to express things. You start to get how you like to share your work. You start to get really connected with your heart. You start getting connected with your voice. You start getting more confident in yourself, like at the end of the day, right? Number two, as you step forward, you open portals of opportunity, support, and abundance. And that really does happen. When you're being visible as a starseed, this really is one of the ways you start to unleash your power, because then people are starting to find you and you start to attract, right? Like that's something that I easily do now, right? And it's really interesting because one person had, and I'm going to actually probably make content out of this in some way. But someone was saying, oh, you're just like too in your masculine, because I was talking about money and I was talking about large amounts of money, right? And it's like, no, you can be in your divine feminine as well and talk about money, and it's like, and you also get to be merged and unified within yourself so that you're not just only one or the other, and neither are bad, and they get to be unified within yourself, right? And so when you do, you actually start to attract. That's the interesting thing about it. And that's the interesting dynamic of being in your masculine and feminine within, is that as you show up with sharing, taking that action, that masculine action, right? The masculine action within you is the one that says, okay, I'm going to press record. Okay, I'm like writing down those bullet points that I'm going to share with people. This is what I'm going to share with folks, right? And then you merge it with that divine feminine who trusts her flow, her intuition, leans into the mystery, is all about, like, yeah, let's do this, right? And then you just flow with it. And then it, once you're connected at the heart level on all of that, then it just comes out of your mouth in that unified kind of way. And yeah, Shayla's saying divine feminine is abundance, which includes money. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. And I appreciate it when folks get this because it's like some folks don't. So it's really nice to hear that back, because it's like, yes, that's right. So when you are showing up, when you're speaking your truth, you're being authentic with your voice, you're showing up on video, more people are finding you, you then become that attracting energy because you showed up in a bigger way and you made your offers and you're talking about your work, right? And that's when, I get DMs from like people who want to collaborate, like people who are like, can you sponsor my product? And I'm not searching for these people, right? Like, maybe I'll step in for something that's super, super aligned, but it's one of those things that you get to choose and you're not even trying, right? It's just that you're putting yourself out there to be in service. And then all all these portals open so that the perfect collaborations come in, so that the amazing ideal dream clients start finding you, all that good stuff. Another thing of how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power is you position yourself as and are seen as the authority that you are in your field. So one thing I sometimes hear from starseeds is like, well, I need like massive amounts of degrees and certifications, and I need to be really legit, right? And then people can take me seriously, then they'll see me as an authority. Well, here's the thing. You could just call yourself an authority and just keep showing up talking about that same thing, and then you become the authority. That's how you become the authority. You claim it, right? You don't wait for someone to be like, I now give you permission, you know, authority in your field, right? No, you just start showing up. You just start showing up as you. You keep talking about the same topic, right? And you're going to sound like this repetitive, you know, robot to yourself, but I guarantee you, you are not, especially for your ideal clients. They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, I missed that. I'm so glad she mentioned that again, right? Because we receive in layers. And sometimes not everyone receives in the first message. The first time you put down, they're not going to pick it up. But if you put it down again and again and again, then maybe the fifth or the seventh or eighth time, they're like, oh, I think she's saying XYZ. And it's like, yes, I have been, right? And then they get it. But most people don't really get it on the first share. So, you know, the more that you talk about your work specifically, then you start becoming that go-to person. Like for me, I talk a lot about activating the divine power code of light, you know, that God code of your own divine power. And I talk about, you know, different ways of like power and how you're being in your power, how you're not in your power, power this, power that. This is not power, this is power. You know, it's like you can talk about so many levels until the cows come home, right? And, you know, so this is something that you actually start being looked at as an authority. The more you talk about it and you start positioning yourself as that person, you know? So the fourth point of how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power is you reach and help more people. I mean, that's really kind of the come away of all of this, right? Is that if you are a starseed, and especially if you're a leader of the new earth, you are meant to help a lot of people, not just the 5 people who are like in your neighborhood, right? You're meant to help like the world, and not from a place of, oh my God, I'm so depleted and burned out. No, it gets to be even sustainable, right? If you set up your business, your spiritual business the right way, you're going to have like a lot of energy for creation and you're not going to get burned out, right? And this is something that I teach my clients on. So it's doable. So that's what I'm just sharing. But what I'm saying is that the more visible you are, the more people can find you, more the right people can find you, and then the more of those people you can help. Right. So, I mean, when I started out, of course, I was super local. I was an acupuncturist. I still am an acupuncturist. And I still have my private practice in New York City, here in like the Flatiron District. And so I started doing that for like, you know, it's been 13 years I've been doing that now. So it was definitely much more a brick and mortar, local, you know, impact kind of level. And then, of course, you know, then they go out and, you know, those healed patients start going out in the world and they start creating a ripple effect. Yes, that's true. But can you imagine serving someone who's on the opposite side of the world than you, right? And that's what I started discovering when I started, you know, doing my online work and my power activation and coaching and mentorship work, right? Now I serve people who are in Botswana, Australia, London, Brazil, you know, yes, in the US, you know, Hawaii, North Carolina, right? Like it can be US based and it's also very much global. And I help people on the global level now. And so you become unlimited. You become unlimited to the level of opportunity that is here for you, because it is here for you. Someone's saying, yes, I'm in Hawaii. Yes. England. Yes. Hello, Will. Yes, Will is in England. So that is just, you can serve anyone wherever they are. And you can also serve anyone from wherever you are, right? You can still be kind of on like a work vacay or something, and you can still serve your people, right? Because you're not also going to be stuck with location contingencies, right? Like you can be anywhere in the world and you can still serve your people. So Jasmine's in Berlin. Hey there. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying, right? You can serve anyone. And this is just a live show. Can you imagine if this was a masterclass or a workshop or a group event, right? Imagine how many people you'd reach. And so, like, even just last week's 11/11 event, for instance, there were people, I hope I remember all the countries, but there were people from Denmark, Germany, Dubai, um, and there were other places too in the US. And, so there are so many people from all over the world, and you do not need to be tied down anywhere. You get to have freedom to serve in the way that you love to serve. And you have the freedom to go anywhere you want and serve them if you feel like doing it, right? From wherever you are. So you get to reach and help more people when you're visible, because then more people find you, right? And then also number 5, you gain deeper confidence in yourself and your mission. Again, it's like the more visible you are, the more you practice, the more you flub up, the more you're like, oh my God, that was very cringy. That was embarrassing. I didn't realize that my hair was doing that in the middle of the live. I will make sure to watch that next time, or, whatever, whatever comes up for you. But you basically get deeper confidence in yourself and then also in your mission. Because I mean, a lot of starseeds, might say, oh, I don't know what my mission is. You do know what your mission is. It's just scary to you, right? But as soon as you start taking ownership of it, then you start getting support around it, right? And then it starts to shape and hone and get more clarified and deepen and all that stuff, right? But it doesn't happen unless you take ownership of it in the first place. So number 6, you feel more fulfilled in your Starseed mission. So when you're really doing your Starseed work, and like as an example, I'll take myself as an example, doing the Starseed work, doing activations, connecting with amazing Starseed souls who are like, I know I'm this big, amazing person. I've got this big, powerful energy and all these abilities. And, like, let's do this, Margarita, right? It's like, I'm just like so on that. That is so exciting to me, to help folks, to help Starseeds to be more specific, embody that within themselves, right? That is just like, you made my day, right? So it will fulfill you deeply when you are showing up on mission. And so, just to give you an example too, because sometimes I hear Starseeds sometimes say, well, that's great, Margarita, but, that's just not viable. That's not a good, viable career choice. And it's like, who are you talking to, right? Like me and many other Starseeds are like kicking it with our missions in very thriving, abundant ways that feed our souls, right? So I don't know who you're talking to, but that is not my truth, right? And it doesn't need to be your truth either. Your truth gets to be like, wow, I am on my mission. I am feeling deeply fulfilled. I am making lots of money so that I can not only improve myself, improve my offerings, but also provide a higher level of experience to my clients, right? So that is so important. And number 7, you love yourself and everything you create in your life even more. I guarantee this will happen to you once you really start to being visible in your power as a Starseed. You start to be like, damn, I'm good. Wow, I really kicked ass with that topic. Or wow, that video I just did, that was good. That was important, right? And so, you will just really deepen your love relationship with yourself, because you will keep proving to yourself with each time you try that you can surpass your own fears. Excuse me. And so that's why that is also another important part, because the self-love is, of course, important if you're going to do any of this stuff, but then it deepens when the more you step up, the more you do your stuff, right? So I'm seeing here, amen to that. Taking daily, consistent, and perfect action is key. Absolutely. Amen to that. Appreciate what you have to share and how you share, sis. I'm glad to hear that that resonates. Thank you. Daphne shares, I quit corporate a year ago, and even with all the mistakes, I've never been so fulfilled. Woohoo! Daphne, congratulations. That's amazing that you quit your corporate job. And here's the thing. I'm not saying like everyone needs to quit their corporate job. What I will say is that Starseeds are not meant to stay in a cubicle from 9 to 5 under fluorescent lights and then have like a meager paycheck every 2 weeks and be like, yeah, this is what I signed up for. Never saw that happen. Never saw that happen. So Daphne, kudos to you for, making that brave choice, because it's actually about courage, right? It's not about anything else but courage, because it takes courage to quit that life, because we've all, myself included, have all been programmed. If you're like old enough to watch these videos and take in social media and all that, then you have been through, you know, a good level of the system, a good level of the matrix, where we've all been positioned to be employees. We've all been trained to be employees. We have not been trained to think for ourselves, to run our own businesses, to be our own boss. That is the truth. And so it is so easy for a lot of starseeds to be like, oh no, I'm just going to go back to my corporate day job. And there's no shame in that if you want to do that, right? But what I will say about it is that that may not be your be all end all. And just consider that possibility. So I just want to clap you up, Daphne, for having the courage to quit your corporate a year ago, corporate job. And, she's saying it right there. I have never been so fulfilled, right? You may be trying to figure things out. You may be trying to create the foundations of your business. That's fine. You'll figure it out. And if you want help with figuring that out, I'm here for you, right? Because that's what I help my clients with, is building that foundation. But the point being is that you will feel fulfilled already, and the money will come because you are showing up in alignment for yourself. So just keep that in mind. I felt this way when I recorded my podcast episodes. That's awesome. I love that. It felt like, dang it, I can do anything in the world. Yes, you can. Yeah. And someone says, I really can't with fluorescent. LED too. Yeah. It's just, I hear you, is all I'm going to say about that. So number 8, in terms of how being visible as a starseed unleashes your power, you are more at peace within yourself as a starseed. This is something not a lot of starseeds talk about. Even though you're being visible in the world and you think that's all oh my God, it's like this really heart-wrenching thing. That can be one aspect of it when you first begin. Okay, and then it becomes less dramatic as time goes on, right? It's less oh my God, this is crazy pants, right? It becomes less of that and more okay, so now I'm going to hone and share and get more confident, get more solid with my messaging and that kind of thing, right? But no one really talks about when you are really visible and you're putting yourself out there, there is a certain level of peace in your heart that you start to activate and you start to become aware of. Because I'll tell you something, I have never heard, and I'm just being honest here, I've never heard any starseed who's been at a day job and said, I deeply feel at peace with where I'm at right now. I really, really feel good. And as a starseed, I feel really at peace with what I'm doing and showing up with in the world, right? I've never seen that. But what I will see are those starseeds, maybe you're one of them, who, they'll do the scary things. They'll make the videos. They'll do create content. They'll make some posts where they're showing their face and showing their voice and all this stuff, right? And they're just like, wow, I'm showing up. Like, this is amazing, right? Like I'm on my path. I'm on my mission. I'm doing what I've incarnated to do, right? And there's a level of peace that you cultivate within yourself when you're doing what you came here to do. So that's a big piece. And then the last one I'll share with you is that when you're being visible as a starseed, that unleashes your power because you create and build your financial wealth while being in a high level of service. Because when you are showing up and you're making yourself visible, you're getting out of your own way and saying, oh my God, I need to change this and this and this, and then I'll show up, versus, okay, I'm not perfect. My hair looks like crap, but I'm going to show up today because I've got an important message, just giving you an example, right? You don't need to be perfect. And actually, no one likes perfect. The more real you are, the more you are, the more of an edge that you have, right? And because the more vanilla you are within your messaging, because a lot of my clients and even people that I'm on my strategy calls with, they share with me, like, I really feel like I need to be very vanilla with my messaging because I don't feel comfortable rocking the boat. And I get it because I've been there, right? And the more vanilla you are, the less you stand out and the more you're just like everyone else. The more you're just like every other love and light worker or starseed person out there, right? But the more that you infuse your work with your personality, with your voice, with your frequency, that cannot be copied. That cannot be replicated, right? So when you come across with that, your authentic self, that is when people start to resonate with you. People start to look for your stuff. Sometimes people will say, oh, great, I found your live, right? Or like, wow, this post really spoke to me today, right? And then you'll start getting all these coincidences. And I mean, it might not get to this this point, but sometimes people will say like, oh, Margarita, you were in my dream yesterday where you shared with me this XYZ wisdom, right? And it's like, I'm not even trying here. I'm just showing up and being in service, and that's my point here, right? And if you can make a more empowered decision about your path as a starseed light worker, then I've done my job. And when you keep showing up and you keep being visible, you will actually start to make money. There are two ways to make money. One is the way that I first made my first 6 figures, right? And I did that in private practice, doing my acupuncture and my Reiki only. And I made my first 6 figures, but that was from hustling, right? That was from hustling. That's like, how many patients could I fit in today? Like, this person wants to come in to see me. How can I fit them in, right? Like, well, that's just accommodation. But I mean, I'm talking about where you're like hustling to a point that's unsustainable, right? That's one way to make a lot of money. Another way to make a lot of money, when you're more in alignment with your inner masculine and inner feminine, and aligned with your mission, and aligned with your power as a starseed, then it's all lined up, and you're just basically just stepping one foot in front of the other, and then opportunities come, your ideal clients come, and your financial wealth comes. And it's about being able to hold that frequency of possibility for yourself. Because if you're not holding that for yourself, like let's say a contrasting frequency would be like, oh, I can't do this. This is impossible. That's also a frequency. And if you hold that frequency, then you will get exactly what you're expecting. But if you're holding a different frequency, one that says, wow, like I can do anything, right? Then you will. But if you hold that frequency, yeah, you will make it happen. And so those are some of what I wanted to share with you today. These are the points I wanted to share with you today. I hope that it's helping. Yes. Tenzin is sharing, oh yes, there is this unshakable stillness and peace deep within me. I left my 9-to-5 job last year. Congratulations, Tenzin. Woohoo! Congratulations. That's awesome. And 2 people, okay? 2 people already just in the comment section sharing just last year they quit their job or they left their job for whatever reason, right? And that they're just, the first person said feeling deeply fulfilled. Second person saying unshakable stillness and peace deep within me, right? So as you take those steps towards what's aligned for your starseed path, then the inner peace starts to set in. The anxiety lessens. Not to say it ever goes away, because if you're going to show up and do big things, you're going to be nervous sometimes. So just deal with that, right? But I'm saying that just notice here. Notice that when you take those scary steps that are courageous, that are brave, that you don't feel like you can handle it. Like, I mean, you know, when I left my last job, my last 9-to-5 job, that was like 13 years ago, and I've been full-time in my sacred work ever since. I was just like, oh my God, how am I going to live? Like, you know, it becomes that, like, how am I going to live without my meager, tiny paycheck every 2 weeks, right? And my questionable health insurance or whatever I'm getting, right, from this day job. And then when you cross the threshold and you leave it because you're like, yeah, it's not aligned. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I know this is not aligned. And then you take that step and then you open into your sacred work, then things just start popping in for you, you know? Shayla, you can call me Margarita. MA is also fine too. And she's letting me know, I shared questions in the box. Sternly, kindly guide me about the same. Okay, let's see about some questions. Yeah, so speaking of questions, feel free to put your questions either in this question marks box thing, or you can just like put it in the comments. And as you do, I did want to share my special announcement. If you've been checking out my posts over the weekend, you already know what this special announcement is. But basically, I have a very special offering that I am bringing up the notes around. So basically what I have coming up is this Wednesday, November 16th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I am having a Starseed Activator retreat, online retreat, and it's called the Starseed Activator Online Retreat. Anchor your Starseed embodiment with Earth Plane strategy that works, create your Starseed visibility roadmap, and make your impact with your Starseed mission. So this is for those Starseeds who want to be visible, who know that they have this powerful voice, and they're just trying to figure out, how do I bridge that gap between being powerful and having this powerful voice and reaching my people and communicating it to my people in an accessible way. Because that's one thing that some starseeds have told me, is that, like, Margarita, I love how as you share, it's just super grounded and you share it in a way that I get it, and that kind of thing. Like, you make it accessible instead of this weird out there cosmic thing that is too esoteric. And so I'm going to share with you how to do that, how to anchor in your messaging so it's not so like etheric and out there that no one understands what the heck you're talking about, right? Because your people are probably not at that level yet, right? Your people are probably still in the, I'm trying to figure things out. I'm still in the 3D. How do I, bust out of that, right? So they're still dealing with the 3D lingo, the 3D language, and all that stuff, right? So you get to bridge that gap in a way that shares your work from a high level frequency, but in ways that they can get and grasp, right? So that's something that I will share with you in this powerful, it's a 4-hour live event, and it begins at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I've had people from like all around the world come to my live events. Some of them, they were in Australia, or they were in England, or they were in Brazil, and it was a totally different time zone, right? Some of them, it was like 6 in the morning for them, or for some of them, it was like 2 in the morning for them, right? And they were like, I'm committed to this. I'm going to figure out how to make this happen because I want this. I want the support, right? So it's going to be very powerful. I'm going to include the link here in the caption after this live is over. And you can also check it in the link in my bio. And on Facebook, I'll share it in the comments section as well. But here's some of what you'll experience with this retreat. You'll anchor your starseed embodiment into Gaia with effective strategy that you can implement now so you can quickly make the difference in the world you're meant to make. By the end of the retreat, you'll have your own Starseed visibility roadmap to move forward with your aligned Starseed visibility at the next level so that you can make impact with your mission. You'll receive a live Starseed visibility and expression activation to propel you forward on your Starseed path. I'll be sharing with you my top tips to increase your visibility, show you how I did it so that you can make them yours too, step by step. You'll also learn my secret to being in your fullest Starseed expression with confidence and clarity, and you will feel more grounded as a Starseed, so you can feel more at peace within you as you step forward on your mission. So when you join, you will get the access to the one group 4-hour live retreat with me where we go all in, and there's going to be a workbook included as well. And it will help you to really move through this journey that I'm going to take you on. And so this whole thing is actually valued at $3,300, but I wanted to make it more accessible. So it's just $997. And I've also included some juicy exclusive bonuses for you. So the first bonus is my PDF guide, my top 5 fave essential oils for healing the soul, which is a $197 value. And just an FYI, I've been trained in 31 hours of essential oil therapy based on Chinese medicine and chakra healing. So I'm actually putting all of that into that PDF. Bonus number 2 is my power embodiment affirmations video, which is $300 in value. And so if you actually move through that video like each day, your auric field is just going to get stronger. You're going to get more fortified. You're going to feel the strength within yourself coming forward. And then bonus number 3 is my masterclass called How to Be Heard as a Leader of Light. It's a pre-recorded masterclass, and that has a $400 value. And so you'll learn what it takes to be heard, how to get clear on who you're serving as a Starseed light worker, and the messaging that gets you heard, and then tangible steps as well. So the value of all those bonuses are $897, but that is going to all be free because that just gets to be part of the whole experience. So I really hope you're going to join us. Some people have already stepped in. And if you're one of them, thank you. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be with you and serve your vision come Wednesday. And if you've been considering it, but you just have some questions, let me know. If you have any questions, you can either shoot them here in the comments or you can DM me, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go into some of these questions. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so looking at some of these questions. All right, so Shayla's asking, are there scholarships available? Okay, I'm guessing you're talking about the live retreat. In this case, no. So that would be the answer for that. There's another question. Can we really share information even without the certification? Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. And I'm seeing kind of like a related question. Does certification matter when it's about authority? So here's where it matters. And, here's the thing is that your life experience matters. Like if you've transcended a really challenging experience, for instance, like to give you kind of a dramatic example, there's someone that I've seen on Instagram where she had some sudden mysterious illness and she had to get like both of her legs amputated, right? And then she experienced some other things, and then something else happened that she had to address, right? And through all of this, she learned so much about her own body. She learned so much about her own health. She became, I think, like a nutritionist or something like that, where she became um, like very, very in the know of stuff. But before she had all these like certifications, she already had her experience. And that experience is a very powerful, potent one that really says, okay, she knows what she's talking about. Okay, right? And the only reason why a lot of, especially the newbie starseeds, think that you need to have um, certifications is because you just simply don't feel comfortable yet. You don't feel confident yet. You don't feel confident in what you're sharing, and that's okay. But the way you get confident is you just start talking about it, and again, and again, and again, right? So that's how you get confident. There's no super sexy shortcut of a way to get confident in your messaging and your voice and your expression without actually practicing it. And you can start with little tiny ways, right? Okay. All right, so it looks like someone is popping in a little later because I've spoken to this already. Someone's asking, what if someone doesn't know their mission? Everyone knows their mission. You know, you're probably just too scared to embrace it, you know, of how powerful it is and what it takes to actually step into it. Um, okay, looking at the other questions too. Can you speak into shifting modalities? I'm being called to incorporating more music and visuals, but audio and in-person channeled readings is my foundation. Well, I'm going to mainly speak into the whole topic, right? Because if you want to talk about your modalities and all that, that's something that could be for like a different live. But I'll just generally speak into this by saying that just start including it. Just start including it and make it just part of what you share. Okay. Another person's asking, how can I find courage to speak up when I start trying? Anxiety hits so hard. I'm helping with my community, within my community. However, social media brings up the anxiety. Yeah, so that's totally normal for the social media to be bringing that up. And there could be some reasons why, right? Because when you're on social media, you know, like someone on the other side of the world could find it and have their own opinions, right? But you get to be you get to create some awareness around why that creates such anxiety for you, right? Because the reason why it might create anxiety for you might not be the reason why another person might feel that same way as well. So the truth is that when you're really showing up, when you are in a community, for instance, it's a little bit more intimate. With social media, it may not feel as intimate because people who you don't know could be finding your stuff, right? And that's the whole point, you know, because some of your new clients are going to be people you don't know yet. But then also some people will not be aligned for your work, right? And that's also okay. And you get to sift through that. And it's also not your responsibility to carry those people if they're not a good fit, right? It's not your job to make those people feel better, you know, or cater to those people because they're not a fit for your stuff. So that's not up to you to take care of. So when it comes to social media, finding the courage to speak up, it's really about getting into the right frame of mind about things, right? Because if you're allowing the anxiety to take over you not showing up on social media, then you're allowing your emotions to not let you be in service. Whereas getting beyond that and transcending that, where you can still feel the nervousness and even fear and even anxiety and still hit the record button, still hit the live button, right? Still hit the post button, right? You can still do all that. But if you don't, then you're allowing your emotions to dictate your mission in the world. And that is not what I would recommend when you are a starseed who's got a powerful charge of light. Okay. So I hope this helped you. I hope answering your questions helped. And like I said, if you have any other questions, particularly about the Starseed Activator online retreat, which is this Wednesday, it's literally in like 2 days. So if this is of some interest to you, you're feeling called, listen to that. Don't allow yourself to get in your own way and get in your head about things. Like if you feel called to something, then do it, right? Like, I mean, that's how Starseeds also activate their power, is that they just say, okay, this is what I want. I'm going for it. So I hope this helped you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And I hope to see some of you on Wednesday at the Starseed Activator online retreat for a really powerful 4-hour live experience where then you come away with feeling more confident in how you get to show up in the world, with how you get to speak in the world, with how you're going to approach showing up in the world more visibly. So thank you everyone for being here, taking time out in your Monday part of your day. And thank you, Will, for being here as well. So glad that you're here too. And have a wonderful rest of the week full of love, light, and power.